You've felt it before, haven't you? Things were perfect. He was present, warm, attentive. He looked at you like you were his piece. You felt the connection, the rhythm, the safety that only real closeness creates. Then suddenly, he shifted. The messages got shorter, the calls less frequent. His eyes seemed distant, his energy heavier. And before you could understand what was happening, he was gone. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally. And the question that keeps you awake at night is this: why do men pull away? Even when they love you. You replay everything. The words you said, the moments you shared, the way you touched his hand that night, and he didn't pull back. Nothing makes sense. Because in your heart, you felt it. That he cared. That there was love. So why does he suddenly act like it doesn't exist? Here's the truth most women never hear. When a man pulls away, it's not always because he's losing feelings, it's because he's losing himself. You see, men love differently. Their love isn't loud, it's quiet, internal, layered with pressure and expectation. They want to protect, to provide, to feel capable. But when a man begins to sense that he's failing in those roles, when he feels unworthy, misunderstood, or emotionally cornered, he withdraws, not to stop loving you, but to find himself again. It's not rejection, it's retreat. And it hurts because his silence feels personal, but often it's not. It's his way of trying to fix what he doesn't know how to explain. The more emotional you become, the more distant he grows, not because your feelings push him away, but because his instincts tell him he must solve what's broken alone. It's how he processes pressure. It's how he regains control. But here's where the real heartbreak happens. When a woman doesn't understand this space, she chases it. She tries to hold him tighter, love him harder, talk him back into closeness. And without realizing it, she suffocates the very thing that could have saved the relationship, his sense of freedom. The shocking truth is this: men don't fall out of love when they pull away. They fall out of safety. If you can understand that distance isn't always detachment, if you can hold your ground without trying to fix everything, if you can be calm when he's cold, that's when something powerful happens. He returns. Not because you begged, not because you convinced him, but because your peace reminded him of who he is. So before you panic, before you overthink, before you blame yourself, listen closely. I'm going to show you exactly why men pull away even when they love you, and how to handle it in a way that makes him come back with deeper respect, more presence, and renewed love. Let's dive in. Section number 1. Understanding his distance. What pulling away really means, psychology of men. When a man starts to pull away, your heart feels it before your mind does. The silence between messages feels heavier, his tone shorter, his warmth colder. You start asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Did I say something? Did I love too much? But here's the truth most women never hear. When a man withdraws, it's not always about you. It's about him. Men are raised to believe that strength means silence, that emotion equals weakness, that asking for reassurance somehow makes them less masculine. So when something inside them feels off, when they start to feel doubt, fear, or emotional pressure, their instinct isn't to open up, it's to retreat. He pulls away to process emotions he doesn't yet understand. He distances himself not because he's losing interest, but because he's losing control. And control, to a man, is identity. When he can't define what he feels or fix what's wrong, he withdraws to rebuild the sense of order that makes him feel capable again. And this is the hardest part for women to accept. When you try to chase him during that retreat, you're stepping into the space he needs to heal. Not because your love is too much, but because his clarity is too fragile. He's not rejecting you. He's resetting himself. In his silence, he's not asking, "Do you still love me?" He's asking himself, "Am I still enough?" It's his internal war, between his emotions and his pride, between his love and his fears. The distance you feel isn't punishment. It's a reflection of how deeply he's trying to protect the relationship by not showing you his weakness. But here's the paradox. What feels like detachment is often his attempt at preservation. Because when a man loves deeply, he feels deeply. And when he can't handle those feelings, or fears losing control of them, he pulls back, hoping the silence will restore his balance. So don't assume his distance means disinterest. Often it's the opposite. It means the connection got too real, too intense, too emotional for his comfort zone. Your job isn't to chase. It's to hold your ground, to remain calm, to let him face his storm without trying to fix it. Because when the dust settles, he'll come back. Not to the woman who panicked, but to the one who trusted his return. Section number 2. Why men retreat from love. The fear of losing control. Every man has a quiet fear that he rarely admits, the fear of losing himself inside love. It's not because he doesn't feel deeply, it's because he feels too deeply and he doesn't know what to do with it. When a man falls in love, something inside him softens, and that softness scares him. He starts to feel vulnerable, emotionally exposed, almost powerless in a way that clashes with how he's been taught to see himself. Love, to a woman, is safety. But to a man who spent his life hiding his emotions, love can feel like surrender. So when he starts pulling away, it's not always about losing attraction. It's about trying to regain emotional balance. He needs to prove to himself that he can still control his space, his choices, his mind. The deeper his feelings get, the more he fears dependency. And dependency, to a man who values strength, feels like weakness. That's why men can love you fiercely and still withdraw. Because inside that distance, they're not asking, "Do I love her?" They're asking, "Am I losing myself?" This retreat is instinctive. It's his emotional survival mode. He disconnects to process the overload, to rebuild his identity outside of you, so that when he returns, he feels strong again, not overwhelmed. But here's the mistake many women make. They try to chase him out of that space. They try to close the distance with words, affection, reassurance, and unknowingly, they feed the very fear he's running from. Because the more he feels your emotional pursuit, the more his mind registers pressure. And pressure, for a man, translates into failure. He starts thinking, "I can't make her happy," or "I'm letting her down." So he runs faster, not away from your love, but away from the feeling that he's disappointing you. Here's the paradox. The space he's taking isn't rejection, it's restoration. He's not trying to end the connection, he's trying to protect it from his own emotional chaos. What brings him back isn't confrontation, it's your composure. When you don't chase, when you stay still, when you let him breathe, he begins to feel safe again. Because your calm communicates what words never could. I trust your process. That's what draws him back. Not guilt, not pressure. Peace. He doesn't return to the woman who begged for his presence. He returns to the woman who respected his distance, and through that patience, reminded him what love feels like without fear. Section number 3. The emotional trigger. When his heart starts missing you again. Silence doesn't always mean he's gone. Sometimes it's the space where he starts to remember you differently. Because at first, when a man pulls away, he convinces himself he's doing what's right, that he needs distance to breathe, that he's better off focusing on himself. But then, something unexpected happens. The calm he wanted starts to feel empty. At night, when things quiet down, his mind drifts. He replays moments that once seemed ordinary. Your voice, your laugh, the way your presence softened his edges. He remembers how you made him feel seen in a world that expects him to hide. And suddenly, the silence he needed starts to feel like punishment. That's the emotional trigger, the moment when absence turns into awareness. When he begins to realize that peace isn't the same without you in it. You see, men don't miss women because of words or beauty. They miss energy. They miss the way your patience made them feel safe to be imperfect. They miss the balance you brought to their chaos. They miss the version of themselves that only existed in your presence. This is why your calm is your greatest weapon. The more you react, the longer his retreat lasts. But the more you stay centered, soft, confident, detached, the faster he feels the pull to return. Because your silence doesn't punish him, it reminds him. He starts to realize that no matter who he talks to, the connection feels shallow. The conversations are lighter, but emptier. The attention is easy, but meaningless. And for the first time, he begins to crave not excitement, but depth. That's when he starts thinking about you. Not the memory of you, but the energy of you. The warmth that didn't demand. The love that didn't chase. The presence that felt like peace. That contrast between your quiet strength and everyone else's noise becomes unbearable. And he starts to wonder, did I walk away from something real? That's the shift. That's when love reactivates. Because true attraction isn't born in the chase, it's born in the space. The space where he realizes that while he was searching for freedom, what he truly missed was the feeling of being understood. And when that realization hits him, pride starts to fade. Slowly, his messages return. His tone softens. His effort grows again. Not because he was convinced to come back, but because your calm reminded him of the peace he lost. Section number 4. When he reaches out, how to respond without losing power. When he finally reaches out, it won't be a confession. It'll be a soft, almost cautious move. A, "Hey, how have you been?" or a casual message that seems harmless. But it's not random. It's his way of testing the water, trying to feel your energy again without risking rejection. And this moment is the turning point. Because how you respond now determines whether he feels comfort or curiosity. Whether he slips back into his old patterns or realizes he's talking to a woman who's evolved in his absence. Most women make one of two mistakes here. They either respond emotionally, too excited, too giving, too fast, or they respond coldly, too defensive, too guarded, too distant. Both extremes ruin polarity. The key is balance. Your response should feel natural, light, but grounded. He needs to feel that you're open, but no longer available in the same way. That you're kind, but composed. That you've moved forward, not away, but beyond. Because men don't come back for forgiveness. They come back for familiarity with a difference. They want to feel that same warmth they once had, but now wrapped in mystery. They want the same love, but not the same version of you. So when he messages, don't rush. Don't mirror his tone immediately. Take your time to reply. Let him sense that you're no longer emotionally waiting for him. That pause, that tiny moment of silence, speaks volumes. It tells him that your peace doesn't revolve around his presence anymore. And when you do respond, keep it simple. No explanations, no subtle guilt, no "where have you been?" Just energy that says, "I'm doing well, and I'm different now." That contrast is powerful, because he'll feel it immediately. The shift in your tone, the calm in your energy, the absence of attachment. You're not ignoring him. You're inviting him to approach differently. The man who once took your presence for granted now feels your absence, even in your presence. That's what brings back pursuit. He'll try to reopen emotional doors, remind you of memories, joke like before. But don't fall into old rhythms too quickly. Keep it warm, but measured. Engaged, but not eager. Every calm response you give makes him feel that your world kept spinning without him. And that's what makes him want to be part of it again. Because in the end, it's not silence that wins him back. It's serenity. The peace of a woman who no longer needs him, but chooses him only if he's worthy again. Section number 5. The shift. When he realizes you're no longer the same woman, there's a moment, quiet, subtle, but undeniable, when he looks at you and realizes something's changed. You're still the same woman, but your energy isn't. The softness is still there, but it's grounded. The warmth still glows, but it no longer burns for approval. You've stopped reaching. You've stopped waiting. You've stopped trying to prove your worth. And that shift shakes him. Because men remember the version of you who once cared too much. The one who always understood, who forgave too easily, who kept showing up even when he disappeared. That version made him feel safe. Not because she was weak, but because she was predictable. Now, you're different. You're peaceful, but distant. Kind, but unavailable. And that's what captures his attention all over again. You're no longer asking, what went wrong? You're silently saying, I've outgrown what hurt me. And that silence does more than any argument ever could. He starts to notice things he overlooked before, the way you speak now with calm certainty, the confidence in your posture, the sparkle of self-assurance that replaced insecurity. You're not performing anymore. You're simply being. That's when he begins to realize he didn't just lose your attention. He lost access to your emotional world. And that kind of loss hits a man harder than heartbreak. Because when you were available, he didn't value your presence. Now that you're composed, detached, radiant, he feels your absence even when you're standing right in front of him. It's not revenge. It's revelation. He finally understands that your love was never the problem. His readiness was. He sees now that what you offered wasn't weakness. It was depth. And the calm you carry now reminds him of the chaos he chose instead. That's when his ego begins to dissolve. The pride that once kept him distant starts to crumble under the weight of his own realization. You became everything he wanted, just without him. And that's the true power of transformation. You didn't chase him. You didn't beg. You didn't try to make him see your worth. You simply became it. He thought walking away would make him free. But now, your freedom makes him remember why he fell in love in the first place. Because nothing haunts a man more than the woman who learned to love herself the way he never did. Section number 6, the reconnection. When he tries to win you back. When a man realizes your silence isn't punishment but peace, something inside him shifts. He starts reaching out again, but this time it's different. His words carry weight. His tone is softer. His effort feels real. Because now he's not reaching for validation. He's reaching for you. He'll start to test the waters. Small conversations, nostalgic references, the I've been thinking about you lately message that hides months of reflection. But the truth is, he's not just trying to talk. He's trying to see if the door is still open. And this is where your power shows. You don't rush to open it. You don't slam it shut. You simply stand by it, calm, observant, composed. You're not the same woman he left. You're the woman he can't forget. Because now, you've mastered the balance that few ever reach, emotional availability without emotional dependency. You're open, but selective. Kind, but firm. He can feel it. The energy is different. He realizes that while he was away, something happened. You stopped needing him, and that made you magnetic. The warmth he once took for granted now feels like a privilege. The attention he once assumed would always be his now feels earned. And when he starts to pursue again, don't confuse it with instant commitment. This stage isn't about his words, it's about his consistency. Because a man's apology isn't in what he says, it's in what he repeatedly chooses to do. So don't rush to rebuild, let him reveal. Watch the rhythm of his effort. Does he show up with intention or just emotion? Because a man who truly regrets losing you won't rush the process. He'll respect your pace. He'll rebuild the trust he once broke, not through promises, but through presence. And as he tries to win you back, you'll notice something else. You're no longer chasing closure. You are closure. You've already healed, grown, and built a life that stands on its own. So whether he stays or walks away again, your peace remains untouched. That's what makes your presence so powerful now. It's not tied to his actions anymore. When a man senses that calm, that deep, self-contained peace, it awakens something primal in him. He wants to be near it, protect it, belong to it. Not because he's lost power, but because he finally recognizes yours. And that's when he stops talking about love and starts proving it. Section number 7. The final shift, when you no longer need his return to feel complete. There comes a moment after all the silence, the distance, the waiting, and the wondering, when something inside you finally settles. It's not anger, it's not indifference, it's peace. You stop asking why he pulled away. You stop checking if he's changed. You stop trying to understand whether he'll ever come back the same way he left. Because you realize you don't need him to. That's the moment of transformation, when the love that once made you lose yourself becomes the reason you finally found yourself. He taught you more through his absence than his presence ever could. You learned that your peace doesn't depend on his attention, that your value isn't proven by his affection, that closure doesn't come from a conversation. It comes from clarity. And that clarity changes everything. You begin to see that love was never meant to make you smaller, quieter, or less certain. Real love, the kind that lasts, begins with balance. With two people who can stand strong on their own and choose each other freely, not fearfully. So when he looks at you now, he sees something he never saw before. A woman who loves without attachment, who gives without losing herself, who can care deeply yet still walk away peacefully. That's what true power looks like. It's not the loud kind. It's not revenge or pride or proving a point. It's quiet, radiant, unshakable. It's knowing that if he stays, it's by choice, not necessity. And if he leaves again, your world won't collapse. It will continue. He can feel that difference. The pressure is gone. The desperation is gone. What remains is pure strength wrapped in softness. The kind of energy that doesn't chase love, it attracts it. Because you finally learned the most powerful truth about relationships. You never lose someone who's meant for your peace. And you never need to hold on to someone who needed to leave for you to grow. So if he comes back, beautiful. If he doesn't, even better. Either way, you've already won. You've become the calm after the storm. The woman who can love deeply, but never at the expense of herself. And now your silence doesn't ache anymore. It heals, because the man who once pulled away may return out of regret. But the woman who's found herself never returns to where she lost her peace. At some point, you realize the story was never about getting him back. It was about getting you back. Because when a man pulls away, it's easy to think love has failed. But sometimes, distance isn't the end. It's the mirror that shows you who you were always meant to become. You were never too emotional. You were never too much. You simply loved in a world that taught men to fear vulnerability. And through that love, you learned patience. Through the pain, you found clarity. He may have pulled away, But you didn't fall apart. You evolved. You turned silence into self-awareness. You turned heartbreak into balance. You discovered that your worth was never something he could give or take away. It was something you had all along. That's the beauty of your journey. You stopped chasing explanations and started embracing growth. You stopped asking why he left and started understanding why you needed the lesson. And now, when he looks back, he'll see it. He'll see the woman who didn't beg, didn't crumble, didn't lose herself. He'll see a woman who stood still long enough for love to find her again, not through words, but through energy. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not because you tried to prove your worth, but because you owned it quietly. So if you're in that season right now, the silence, the confusion, the distance, remember this. You don't need to chase what's meant to recognize you. The man who's truly yours won't pull away forever. He'll come back, not because you demanded it, but because your peace reminded him what real love feels like. And even if he doesn't, you still win. Because the moment you stopped needing someone else to complete you, you became complete. Your heart didn't break. It opened. Your silence didn't lose him. It found you. If this message spoke to your soul, subscribe to this channel. Here we don't chase emotions, we master them.